Welcome back to our yet another episode of Social Gram संवाद सेशन। आज का सेशन शायद आप लोगों के लिए बहुत फ्यूचरिस्टिक और गीक्स के लिए स्पेशली बहुत ही साइंस के जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं उनके लिए बहुत स्पेशल होने वाला है because our guest is also from similar background and he'll give you a feel of well, let's listen from him only. His name is Akshay Jain and he'll tell you his story. Hi Akshay.
Hello, Sarthak.
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. So everyone who's listening to our podcast or viewing it on YouTube, well, that's Akshay Jain for you. And when I was going through his profile on LinkedIn, when I was researching for him, well, I was not. I should say I was like blown away from his profile. The kind of experience he has and the kind of exposure he has is amazing. And plus, what he's doing right now currently is not less than a science fiction comic book thing, for me at least. I mean, Akshay, why don't you tell us something about that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Sarthak. And first of all, I would like to thank you and also the team Socialgram for having me here. I'll try my best to do the justice as much as I can. So, a little bit about myself. First of all, I born and brought up in Jaipur. And grew up playing outdoors, spending almost 25% of my waking life in playing outdoors. So you can just visualize the situation. Almost every outdoor game I've played, be it cricket, basketball, tennis, table tennis, football, sitolia, volleyball, badminton, name whatever it is. So I was totally a burned out and a weird out person in my childhood. And very specifically, I was born and brought up in MNIT Jaipur campus. Because my dad is a professor of mathematics, so I was always in the middle of engineers from my childhood. So naturally, I developed a very keen interest on science and mathematics. So, and after that, of course, I took up engineering eventually, and then luckily I got the admission from MNIT Jaipur. So I did my chemical engineering for 4 years, graduated in 2010. And after that, I actually went for my PhD at National University of Singapore, finished there in 5 years, worked there in Singapore again for 3.5 years as a scientist. And then in January 2019, I quit my job and I started this venture, what I'm doing today.
Okay. So guys, you heard from him. He's not less than Professor Keen Bean. He's doing amazing experiment in his lab. And Akshay, what are you doing right now? You told us about your childhood. Awesome. You had an amazing childhood. So what are you doing these days?
Yeah, sure. So currently I'm working on a startup named Cancri. And basically this Cancri, yeah. So interestingly, yeah, this is the name of the planet. And we named our startup on the name of this planet because this planet is basically composed of all the carbons and unique carbons, diamonds and graphite out of it. And we, in our startup, we are also producing these carbons. So, that is why we thought of some unique name for our startup, and that is why this Cancri came up. So what we are currently doing is basically, we are manufacturing these novel Cancri carbons.
Okay.
And these carbons, specifically for energy storage devices like batteries and capacitors. So, and how do we get this material? We are using different kind of raw materials, and particularly we are working with upcycling of the waste material. So waste materials, what we have used is starting from coconut shells, coconut husk, palm kernel shells, sugarcane bagasse, nectar fruit, seed of a nectar fruit. Yeah. And we've also used, things like hair waste, sea vessel sludge. We have also used chicken poop. So a lot of things have been used as a waste material. So the material which we are getting in our startup, right, at this stage is a carbon material, and we use this material inside the electrode in a battery. Okay. So if you have seen any battery, there are electrodes which goes inside this battery, and we use our material inside these electrodes, and these electrodes goes inside the battery. Oh, wow. And a special thing about our material is it's something which is very extremely easy to adopt. Like you don't have to, think about adopting it. The battery manufacturers, whosoever are using or making these batteries, it's something pretty straightforward for them. They don't have to change anything in their processing lines. So they just have to take this material, put it inside their batteries, and that's it. Oh, wow. And other thing important about our startup and what we really focus on at this stage is about the sustainability angle of it.
Yeah.
Which means that we are, first of all, from the angle of the raw materials. So we are using waste as our raw material. We are using different kinds of waste, as I just mentioned. And when we are looking from the processing of these wastes, the current processes which we are using, it's a patented process which we have filed during my PhD. And we are also, doing heat recovery in our process. So no amount of heat is going to be wasted. And we are doing a lot of recycling, which means the water is being recycled and the chemicals which we are using is being recycled in the process. So we are trying to make this entire process circular so that we don't waste anything. And of course, we are not putting a lot of pressure on Mother Earth in terms of carbon footprint, very less amount of pressure on Mother Earth, and we are trying to make it as sustainable as we can.
Awesome.
So that's the current work we are trying to do in startup.
That's like I said, not less than a comic book science fiction story. I mean, you're actually creating energy and yet not putting any kind of carbon footprint, not increasing, in fact reducing it quite a bit. So that's amazing job. Kudos to you.
Thank you.
So for हमारे जो viewers हैं, like me, I have heard about upcycling, but what is it exactly? I mean, I thought it's like recycling.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'll for the viewers, I would rather simplify it in a very simplistic way so that you can get the idea.
Yeah.
So you see, what our mothers and our grandmoms have been doing it for ages in our houses. And just 3 days back, my mom did that. So this idea came to my head now. See, if you have seen, like just 2 days back, what happened was there was some remaining rice. It happened. We made this rice, the next day we never wanted to eat it. So it was basically a waste for us. So what my mom did was she took that rice waste, and after taking that rice waste, she mixed the water in it and she churned in the mixer. And after making a slurry of that paste, she just added some rava and she added some curd into it and made dosa out of it, right? So basically the rice waste is being converted into a hot, delicious dosa, right? So this is a very simplistic way to understand upcycling, that what we consider as waste, now it has been upcycled to something much more useful and something much more productive. So this is something which we see a lot of these things which is happening at homes. But we also look at from the industrial angle. There are a lot of efforts have been going on in terms of upcycling. One very common example is people have been trying, the e-waste. There is a lot of e-waste sludge which comes out of the industry. Correct. And that kind of waste have been currently being used to get the heavy materials out, or heavy metals, or precious metals like gold or silver is being taken out from these waste. So that is something very interesting, which is a form of upcycling. From the waste, we are getting something useful. And what we are doing at our startup is also kind of upcycling, because we are starting with a waste, what people consider as waste.
Correct.
And we use it as a resource, converting it to something much more useful, which can be used in batteries and capacity. So that is what, basic upcycling means.
All right. I think there was some interesting research that you did that you wanted to share. What was that about?
Yeah, sure. So it was something time when I was working in Singapore. So one of the guys who they were the what do you call this, wipe manufacturing company. They came to us and the baby wipes. So they came to us and they said that they were producing a lot of waste, because to get these wet wipes to a particular shape or to a rectangular shape, they need to trim the edges carefully, right?
Yeah.
So there is it leaves behind a lot of wastes from these manufacturing facility, and particularly in Singapore, it was approximately 300 tons every year. And this was considered to be a small facility. It was not a huge facility in Singapore. But of course, if you consider, other Southeast Asian, like we are in Korea and other places, they are producing a lot of other materials and producing a lot of waste. So they came to us and then they said that, Akshay, see, we have this waste and currently we are disposing it off at a cost. They were paying to dispose of, right?
Correct.
Because you just can't dispose of the waste. So they were paying of the cost. So they said, can we do something about it? So that was the time we started research into this area, and then I spent approximately 3 to 4 months time doing something. Can we do something about it? We came up with certain solutions. We converted to low-cost fuels. We converted to biofertilizers and all. But of course, these solutions were interesting, but it took I would rather say it was capital intensive. They said like, okay, fine, we can convert it to all these things, but it needs a lot of machines.
Correct.
So they were not ready for that at that stage. So they said like, Akshay, can we do something else, something simple? We don't have to upcycle it, but rather can we just recycle it to something else? So I spent another 3-4 months time, and then because I was in touch with other people as well. So in incineration industry where people burn waste. So this idea came to my head where we use this material and mix it with the wet toxic waste. I'll share more details now. So we mix it with the wet toxic waste or the bio waste. Now, what happens with wet toxic waste and bio waste? Let's understand that. The hospital waste or the chemical waste which is generated in the industries, right, which is wet, and you just directly can't burn it. You cannot definitely throw it off because it's biohazardous and it's wet in nature. So what you are going to do with that? You cannot burn it directly because it's wet. So there is a technique, very simple technique. You need to mix it with certain things so that it becomes a paste, and then you burn it. So the current practices which were happening was, they were mixing one agri product.
Okay.
Right? They were mixing some kind of agri product. They were mixing it with that wet waste, and they were making use of it. What we suggested them was, why don't we use these wipes instead of that agri waste? Right. So when we use this wipe waste, what we was really, really interesting results. Why? Wipes were having very high absorption capacities. Like it can absorb the wet waste in a much higher extent, and it was 5 times better.
Okay.
It was having a better calorific value. I would rather say heating value. So that was again beneficial for the process.
Correct.
What happened was, because of these wipes, the amount of wet waste it has absorbed,
correct,
the amount of energy which was needed to burn the waste, right? Finally, it was reduced 8 times.
Oh, wow.
Now, so from the agri waste which was used, now using this waste which was considered a liability for the company, right? Now both these companies came together. The wipes company is now selling it to that company.
Okay.
So for my company, it has become that liability has become an asset because now they're selling it off.
Yeah.
That company which was using the agri waste, they are no more buying that agri byproduct, but rather they are getting these wipes from this company, and they are buying it 5 times lesser in quantity. Instead of 1 ton, they are only buying 200 kilos.
Win-win situation for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. It was a win-win situation for everyone, right?
Yeah.
So, that is something we found, and this is something very close to my heart because it's such a simple and sweet solution, but yet very, impactful and innovative. Yeah.
Exactly. So, wow. I mean, yeah, that's something really nice. I mean, you have win-win for both the parties plus win for the Mother Earth. I mean, you're producing. Yeah, it's amazing. So Akshay, I mean, you have been a lot into upcycling, and like I said, I was researching about you. I read a lot about carbon. Ever since I think you started with the carbon was, I think, something which you were obsessed about from your right after your, I don't know how does it work, if it was your specialization or what, but so what made you think go in this direction after your MNIT engineering? I mean, what was your motivation, I would ask?
See, motivation, there were certain forces which went into this direction. First of all, after my BTech, when I went for my PhD, one of the important thing was I wanted to do some research. I was having interest in academics for sure, and I wanted to do some research. Another thing was when I landed up after university, after MNIT Jaipur, the jobs which we were offered, right? It was more of sales kind of jobs. Some people got some jobs which was very much related to IT software related jobs. So I was not very much into it. I wanted to do something else with relation to chemical engineering. So that was something which pushed me for PhD. And of course, after talking to a few people there in this field, I realized that of course if you do something of higher studies in this area, you have definitely more choices for you in the near future.
Correct.
So that was something, this is how it started. But when I went into this and how this idea came up was really interesting because you see, when I went inside or when I entered Singapore, when I started talking to the professors, so I was having 2 options with me to do. The number one option was to do something with the metallic membranes. So that was that was a very in thing that time, doing something, incorporation of the metals, and then do something about it. And the other option what I was having was do some waste upcycling and recycling, and that was funded by National Environmental Agency of Singapore. So that time it was a very natural choice for me to get into this recycling and upcycling business. And the reason being because I'm very much inclined towards environment and also sustainability. And again, the reason for this is because, as I said, I've been born and brought up in MNIT Jaipur. It was such a green lush campus.
Yes.
And I totally understand the value of the environment and the kind of growth you can have if you have good air, if you have good earth to live in. So it was something totally valuable thing. But when I started talking to the professors and started understanding the problems which the Mother Earth is facing, it really struck me hard. And then it was a need of the hour that we need to really do something about this Mother Earth. So that was something, a very natural choice for me that time to get into this area. So particularly about the carbons which you mentioned, how these things happened is when I started talking to the professors, so they came up with very broad field that actually we have this agri waste and we need to do something about it. So we need to upcycle it or we need to recycle it. What can you do? So it took me approximately 1.5 to 2 years of time just to find or to just get to the idea that yes, we want to convert it to carbons, these porous carbons, what I'm pursuing today. But 1.5 years or 2 years, if you really look inside what was there, it was all about, I read a lot of papers, I read a lot of patents, we did a lot of hands-on experiments, a lot of field experiments, which was related to, converting those agri-waste or coconut shells to biofertilizers. We made into low-cost adsorbents. We also made it to, these, low-cost fuels.
Yes.
So a lot of things went inside that 1.5 to 2 years, but nothing worked really well that time. And then finally, after 1.5 years to 2 years time, this thing came up that why don't we convert it into the porous carbons? And that really came up well. The properties what we got of these carbons were really good. It worked pretty well in these batteries and capacitors. So after 2 years, we kicked it off. And I would say I just took another 2 years to really finish up my PhD. So that was the, in my case, the idea to convert these waste to porous carbons took the same time, what the time I took to finish up my PhD. And I think, but I feel idea is something which is very important and it comes only when you have deep insights into the subject.
Definitely.
So this is how it happened. Yeah.
Awesome. So I would just like to take some value out of this thing and tell to our viewers that he faced a situation wherein after graduating from a very prestigious college like MNIT, he was not the type of jobs his batch was offered was more of marketing, sales, and IT jobs. But yet, what he wanted to do was something more core, I would say, and connected to earth, and they were your reasons, and finally he's here today. So you know what to do. You follow this guy.
Thank you.
Actually, you told us a lot about these batteries. The kind of work that you're doing. So I really want to know. I know they are better than the regular ones because they are much more eco-friendly. But how do you see the transition? When we will be able to use those batteries, or are we using already? We don't know.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the current status is we have okay, so let me start like this. Basically, to categorize, we are an advanced material company.
Okay.
So we are producing this high quality material, to be very specific, and this material is better than other material which is currently available in the market. Now, in terms of porosities, in terms of its pore sizes, conductivity, functional groups, densities, there are many other factors which plays role. And what we have made is, this is a patented material which came out better than the commercial materials now. Now, when this material goes inside the electrodes, because this is how we make the electrodes.
Yeah.
We get better electrode in terms of its performance and in terms of its strength.
Okay.
And now when these electrodes goes inside the batteries, it will make the batteries better, right? So this is how the transition is. Now, how the batteries are better? Number one, if we use our carbons, we get higher life cycle.
Yeah.
We get lesser maintenance, and also we get higher charge acceptance, which means that the batteries would be able to accept more charge.
Okay.
Number two, batteries would be charged fast, right?
Okay.
Now the current state of the company is we have already given this carbon, we have produced this carbon at a pilot scale, and we have made the batteries with the contract manufacturer, or basically he's our collaborator, where we have made these batteries, and now these batteries are ongoing certain tests. And after that, we are going to make 100 batteries, which is we call as alpha testing. And after that, things would be accepted, and then we are going to supply the material to the manufacturer of these batteries. Now, to understand a bit more on the battery part, when you're talking about these higher life cycle, lesser maintenance, and higher charge acceptance.
Correct. Yeah,
these are something very very terms like how will it make an impact on the average person.
Yeah.
So I'd just like to share very relatable example with you here.
Yeah.
Which is very common in India, and also in our pink city Jaipur. We have seen a lot of e-rickshaws which are running. Right now, these e-rickshaws, basically what they are using is they are using tubular batteries, which is one kind of lead acid batteries, and we call as tubular battery. Now, what happens is the box life of these tubular batteries is in the range of 3 to 5 years. All right, but when these drivers are using these batteries, it won't run for more than 9 to 10 months.
Okay.
That is the life of the battery there when they really use it. Why? Because the way the batteries are being charged, the actual charging time for these batteries is in the range of 12 to 13 hours. You need to charge these batteries. If you're not charging these batteries sufficiently, the batteries are degraded. And if the batteries are degraded, of course, the life cycle would go down. Now, what happens with our rickshaw drivers? If they are running it one day, they need to recharge it for at least 12 to 13 hours to completely recharge it. But they won't get enough time. They sleep for 8 to 9 hours, and the next day they again have to go for their job. So what the time they're getting is 8 to 9 hours only in a day. And these 8 to 9 hours is not sufficient for the battery to get fully charged. And because of that, the battery performance goes down, right?
Yeah.
Now, what we are trying to do is, if we can make these batteries charged faster, which means that instead of 12 hours, if you can charge the batteries within 8 to 9 hours, right? That means the e-rickshaw drivers who are charging it for 8 to 9 hours, it's sufficient for them to charge the battery up to 100% capacity.
Yes.
If we are charging the battery to 100% capacity, it won't be degraded. It'll be good enough, right? So we are expecting that currently the life cycle of these e-rickshaw drivers is approximately 8 to 9 months. But we are expecting that if we are using our carbon inside these batteries, the life cycle can go up to 18 to 19 months, which is almost double. And of course, it will give a very reasonable ROI for the e-rickshaw drivers to drive these e-rickshaws, because otherwise batteries are really expensive for them.
Yes. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, all right. I understood your point about increasing the life cycle of the battery and everything. So, I was just curious to know, like I said earlier, when we will be able to use that, or the timeline I'm asking. Do you have any idea?
So, in terms of timeline, let me say to you like this. Currently, we are undergoing this testing, although the tests are on hold because of COVID situation. A lot of labs have been closed, so we are suffering. But I think that's something the state of everyone is going through that. But if everything goes fine, after this, we are expecting one alpha testing, where we are going to make 100 batteries out of it.
Okay.
So after 100 batteries, it will take another 6 months for that. And after alpha testing, we will get this current customer where we are working with. He'll be on board with us, and then we'll be making material for him, and then we are going to upscale our production facilities. So I am expecting, if everything goes fine, we should be able to upscale and make these batteries with our collaborator in a matter of 1 year time from now.
Awesome. I'm really excited for your product, and
sure.
Would love to tell to more and more people, so that it helps our planet. Yeah, definitely.
Of course.
So,
and of course, even in households, if you see, it can be used for inverters, UPS, and all those kind of things. So of course, it will be available for all the people who are even not just the e-rickshaw, but in everyday lives, everybody can use these kind of batteries.
All right. So, do you think you can also collaborate with the basically the electric vehicle EV industry that's coming up in India also now? Do you think that?
Currently our focus at this stage, we are focusing on lead acid batteries. So lead acid battery is always a part of EVs in SLI's application, like start, light, and ignition. So lead acid batteries is always being used. So there are a lot of manufacturers who are doing it. So at this stage, we are not planning to manufacture it on our own. We are going to outsource these things. So
Mhm.
that is one thing. Another thing is, as I said, like we are more of an advanced material company. So of
Yeah.
course, yes, we are. Our next stage is also to go into lithium-ion batteries, which is directly
Yes.
being used inside these EVs. What you mentioned. So this can really make an impact for EVs as well.
Awesome, awesome. So Akshay, I would like I'm coming to my last question now. So what's your goal with this project? I mean, you're quite at a good level, and you have already told me like how you plan to grow. But what's your goal with this thing?
Sure.
And also, do you have another thing cooking up in your lab? How they have always the secret experiments. I'm sure you
Sure.
must be having that.
Yeah, of course. You see, there are a lot of things are going on currently, and we are very excited about things, how the things are folding up.
Yeah.
And again, like we have planned a lot of things for the near future as well. But let me just share what our goal is for the not for the near future, but what we really foresee.
Yes.
So we are forcing it from this angle. Like you see, we are planning to have this plant where we will be producing this our material, right? So
Yeah.
we are looking in the suburbs of cities, and where we are looking forward to outsource, or rather source these materials, or the raw materials
Yeah.
or the agricultural waste from the farmers, and generate some kind of income for them. This is one thing. Another thing is, since these will be in the suburbs of the cities, we are going to generate the jobs for the people around there. Right now, this is I actually call it as green jobs, which is again a very in term in United Nations. They are very much focusing on green jobs, which is doing something for the Mother Earth, but at the same time creating jobs. So this is something which we are looking forward. Another thing which we are this is in terms of job creation and income generation for the people. But when we talk about the technology per se, right? What we want to do also is, you see, we have this material where we are producing these, or outsourcing this material to produce the batteries.
Yeah.
Now, if you really see the villages currently, they have these problem of irregular supplies of electricity, right? It's a very, very common issue.
Very common.
So irregular electricity supplies happens because of the grid distribution, and it's not a very good, supplies from the grid electricity what we have in India currently, right? So what a lot of other people also foresee is, to have this off-grid setup in the villages, where they have these solar panels set up, and then we use our own batteries. And once we use these batteries, which are more sustainable, higher life cycle, we are foreseeing to reduce the overall capital cost for these villages. And if they have these kind of setup where they have these solar panels plus the batteries what we are making installed, this is an off-grid application wherein there will be a regular supply of electricity. Okay. There won't be any irregular supplies what the villages are facing at this point of time. So this is what we are facing. This is what we are foreseeing by in our industry, wherein we will increase the living standards of the villagers to some extent by using the high-performing batteries and reducing the capital cost, which is one of the big hindrances in making off-grid possible. So this is something which we are looking forward in the future to come.
Amazing, Akshay. Amazing. I mean, that was a amazing session. That amazing conversation that we had, and I'm really thankful to you that you gave us your time, and plus also enlightened me with so many. I didn't know that there are startups in Jaipur per se, who are doing such great things, and I'm glad to talk to you. And also I would like to invite you to our space, Socialgram space, once everything is normalized. The situations are, and we would definitely like to definitely, and we would like to collaborate with you in some way, we can do something
in
together.
any way possible, of course. In any way possible, I'll be more than happy to collaborate, whichever way you do.
Yes.
Just keep me in loop, keep me informed. I'll be more than happy to do that.
Sure. I'll do that. Thank you so much, Akshay. Wonderful.
All right.
talking
Thank
to
you so much.
Thank you.
Same here. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.